Good morning. Welcome into my home and into my kitchen here at All Things Kitchen. My name is Jennifer, and this morning I decided I wanted to try to make some apple fritters for breakfast. So I thought I'd bring you along with me. I already have some things set up, some things prepped so that we can make this hopefully nice and quick and yummy and delicious. This is a brand new recipe for me. I've never made apple fritters before, but I just have a taste for it this morning. And when we went to the grocery store yesterday, I decided to pick up some apples and do something with them. So I'm going to go ahead and bring you down and show you what I have to get started. And we'll get to frying these apple fritters up. And hopefully they'll be yummy and delicious. So what I have here is 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. I already have 2 apples that I have diced up, and I have them sitting in some lemon water right now so that they don't brown on me. And the rest we're going to put together. So into my flour, I need 1/4 cup of sugar. Quarter cup of sugar. And I will link this recipe down in the description box. I need 2 teaspoons of baking powder. 2 teaspoons of that. A 1/2 teaspoon of salt. I need to refill my salt here soon. That's about a 1/2 teaspoon. And 1.5 teaspoons of cinnamon. It has been raining and dreary, and actually we need the rain, so that's okay, but it's been raining since yesterday afternoon, and right now it's about 10:30 this morning. So it is definitely a day where something nice and warm from scratch sounds like it belongs in my belly. How about you guys? Okay, so I am just incorporating all of the dry ingredients together, and then I'm going to get all of the wet ingredients together. So I'm just going to set this aside. Now the recipe called for, oh goodness, what kind of apples? It called for Granny Smith or Honeycrisp apple. I got Pink Ladies. So I'm sure you could use whatever apple. You could experiment with different apples to see what might taste good, what might taste better. And I need to get another bowl because evidently the 2 I have out is not enough. So that should be big enough for all the wet ingredients. And I don't have any of the wet ingredients out. So first I need 1/3 cup of milk. Well, it came out of a cow, but maybe I should have stayed in bed for another half an hour this morning, since evidently talking is difficult. Okay, 1/3 cup of milk. Two eggs. And I am going to beat these up a little bit before I put them in with the milk. Just have this little nifty. Oh, goodness. Got a little too excited. Too vigorous there. I'm just trying to break these up a little bit. Go ahead and put them in here and do that with the milk. Now, also in here, I need 3 tablespoons of applesauce. So I'm going to get that. Mm-hmm. 2, 3. That was just a plain, unsweetened applesauce that I used. You could probably, if you had a cinnamon applesauce, that would probably go well since the recipe already has cinnamon in it anyway. Now, I do have on the stove some oil coming up to temperature. Why? And the temperature of the oil is supposed to be at 375 degrees. So I'm just going to temp my oil really quickly and see where we're at. It's actually a little on the high side. It's a little too hot, so just turned it down a notch or 2, and hopefully by the time we put all of our ingredients together, that temperature will be just about right. So I just put a baking sheet right next to my pan of hot oil on top of the stove with a wire rack over it. I'm making a little well here for my wet ingredients. And I'm going to just mix this to combined. You don't want to over mix your dough for this. So I'm going to mix it until the ingredients are just incorporated, and then I will add in the apples. So you can see what we've got here. I can smell the cinnamon. It smells like cinnamon donuts to me, cinnamon fritters. All right, just a little bit of dry powder, but I'm also going to be adding the apples, which means I'm going to have to incorporate that a little bit more. So I'm going to go dump the liquid. Okay, so I just drained off the liquid for the apples. Just give me a little shake here, and I'm going to dump those in there. And this is going to be a lot of apple fritters. I have to share. So the recipe here states to put about 1/4 of a cup into the oil, which let me test my oil, see how it's doing right now. Okay, so the recipe said to use about 1/4 cup, but some of the reviews were talking about how that was too much. It got too fluffy. And so I'm going to use kind of like a heaping 1/8 cup, and I'm going to spread it out a little bit. So I'm going to put 1 in here to test, plus it may cool down my oil a little bit because it's a little warm. And then I'm going to bring you over here while we fry these up. I don't fry that much. I don't like the mess that it makes, and I don't like the smell that it leaves in my house, but that is looking beautiful, and we will definitely be enjoying these. So I'm going to have this bowl right here. So that, I'm sure that brought the temperature down some. I think there's room there. I'm going to go ahead and add another one. And I'm just kind of giving it a smush when I'm putting it in there so that it doesn't puff up into like a ball. And I'm going to flip that. The recipe does call for a glaze, but it also says something. It also talks about just putting maybe some confectioner sugar on there. So I might do a little bit of both. So maybe while these are frying, I don't want to walk away too much because I don't want them to get too brown. Let me see how that's doing for my oil. Sorry about the camera shake. So it's right about right now where we want it, about 375. That was right about 380. And that was after putting these in there. Oh, these look gorgeous. Give that about another 30 seconds. You don't want to overcrowd your pan. I mean, you could definitely put in a couple at a time, but my oil was too hot to start with, so I didn't want to put too much in there at one time. And I don't see these really puffing up a whole lot like the reviews were talking about. So I'm actually wondering if maybe those people maybe use self-raising flour instead of just regular all-purpose flour. That would definitely cause them to puff up more. I actually almost substituted self-raising flour in this recipe because I have some and I need to use it. So I'm just going to do a couple at a time here. So I'm sure you could come up with a system as you put these in, maybe put one in, and by the time that may need a little bit more on that one side. By the time you go to flip it, it should be good to put another one in. I'm still kind of giving it a smush because I don't want it to get too brown on the outside before it cooks all the way in the middle. Got some powdered sugar here. I'm just going to put that on this one sitting over here. And I'll have this ready for a couple of more. And because I don't have enough dishes dirty, we'll go ahead and do what we can to get the glaze going. I think I'm only going to make a small portion of the glaze because the recipe calls for 2 cups of sugar and I don't need that much glaze. So I'm putting about 2/3 of a cup of powdered sugar, a little splash of vanilla, and just a splash of milk as well. And I may have to adjust all of that according to how well it incorporates. I'll check that in just a second. So, did you guys do anything special this weekend? Okay, so all those ingredients that I talked about for the glaze, I'm just mixing right here in the bowl, and we'll see if it is the consistency I want. I may need to add a little bit of something. Put some powdered sugar on this one. A couple of them I will probably leave with no topping on there at all. So while I finish frying these off, I am going to let you go, and I will bring you back once I have completed all of them, and we'll see how many we get. I'm not even halfway through the dough yet, so we're going to have quite a few. I'm definitely going to have to share these. So I have the glaze here, and I just want to show you, I have been glazing a couple of them, and I'm just basically having to turn the bowl so you can see, but so I'm just dipping it in there. It did say to do it on both sides, and the first one I did it on both sides, but I don't think I want it on both sides. I think I just want it on the one. So just pulling it out and putting it on my rack right there. So like I said, I'm glazing some. A couple of, I have put powdered sugar on, and I'm going to leave some plain as well. Now I've kind of gotten the hang of the oil to know when, okay, it's getting a little too warm. I need to add some batter in there to cool it down. And some of them got a little bit toasty, but it's beautiful on that side. Maybe if I just do it like that, nobody will know, right? And you can experiment with different shapes. That looks so good. Also, just because I did have a taste, a piece accidentally fell into my mouth while the camera was off. The texture of the apples will depend on, of course, number one, the type of apple that you have, but also the size of the apples, how the size that you cut them. So keep that in mind. If you want a more pronounced crisp apple bite, then maybe keep the apple sizes a little bit larger. If you want the apples to kind of melt in your mouth as if they were cooked, cut them smaller, or you could actually pre-cook the apples as well before you put them in the batter to soften them up. That all depends on the texture that you're looking for and the type of apple that you have. So that might be something that you need to experiment with and see for yourself. Actually, what I have done, and considering this is the first time that I've made apple fritters, I think the apple texture is beautiful in these. So I cut them about the same size that I cut my potatoes when I make a breakfast bake. Not bake, but when I make my fried potatoes for breakfast. And it seemed to work beautifully for this recipe. And I am almost done. I think there is probably enough batter for about 2 more. So I think this size that I'm doing right now is a really good size, which is this, like I said, this is 1/8 of a cup, and I have it kind of heaping, and just to kind of put it in there and give it that smush so that it's not all balled up in the center. All right. Again, I'll bring you back. I just wanted to show you that how I was doing the glaze. And again, that's going to come down to personal preference. If you want the glaze, on both sides, you know, how much glaze do you want? That will be your personal preference. So I'll bring you back. Okay, friends. So I just took the last fritter out. And that one got, well, my last two got a little bit too dark, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm a home cook. I'm not a professional chef. And sometimes things don't always go perfect. So I think I'm only going to dip one more. I'll let my husband taste one. He might prefer to not have the glaze on there. I also just called my dad and said, hey, I'm bringing some over to you. I've got way too many. So, like I said, just the glaze right there. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with glaze, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 without, and 2 with powdered sugar. And man, do they look delicious. And so I'm going to bring you up here. And it is quite warm in the kitchen frying with that oil. Oh, goodness. You'll have to pardon me. So I'm going to take one. Beautiful. Let's try it. Look at that cinnamon. Look at that batter. The apple still has some body to it. Would you like to try?
Absolutely. I can smell the house. Smells like apple fritters.
This one has some glaze on it. I left some without glaze. Let's give your opinion to our friends here.
Thumbs up.
His mouth was too full to talk.
Mm-hmm.
Would you change anything?
Yeah. Make some more.
Make some more. I just called Dad and told him I'm bringing over some, so I'm getting rid of some because we don't need that many. But I did leave some unglazed and some I tried with powdered sugar to cut down on the sugar a little bit. So definitely taste that cinnamon in it. Like I said, the body of the apple, I think the way that I cut them was perfectly, just small cubes. But you decide for you what would work best for you and your family and how you would like to eat something like that. Thank you for giving that taste test for me. And I appreciate your time and you spending it with me. I hope you have a great day. I hope you have a great week. I'll see you next time.
I like the way the apple is. The size in there, it's just right. I mean, you can taste the apple in there without it being like a big chunk.
Mm-hmm.
It's perfect.
Take care.